Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Tamaria and I go by Tamaria Lakay on all my social media platforms. So feel free to follow me on your favorite one. If you are new here, then I've been doing a read along to my first memoir, I Do But Not Till Death. And I'm talking about the inner turmoils, the relational codependencies, and the spiritual conflicts that I've had as a young woman journeying through life, trying to find herself and also trying to find love and God. And this is pretty much the path that I took, right? I took the long route so that hopefully some of you guys can reroute yourself into a quicker destination to find the things that you truly desire and deserve according to God's plan and purpose for your life. Um, I've already done chapter one, I've already done chapter two. So now we are getting started on chapter three. So if you need to catch up, go ahead and catch up. If you haven't already got your copy of the book and you've been following through with the read along, then you are missing out on some of the details that I'm leaving out because I'm not reading the full chapters. I'm just reading a portion of the chapter that stands out to me the most. And then we're having a quick little conversation. So, yeah, if you haven't already purchased, then it's available on Amazon and Kindle, paperback, hardback, ebook. And it would be amazing if you could tag me in a story or a post, letting me know that you purchased so I can go ahead and give you a shout out on one of the up and coming videos. And then, as well, if you follow me on my social media platforms, then you'll have the opportunity to ask me questions that I'll answer for you guys as well. All right, so chapter three, this is where we're at. Let's go ahead and get into it. Chapter three is titled The Spiraling Shot of a Lifetime. Okay. This yellow is really, it's illuminating. It's like throwing off the lighting, but I'm not really someone, I know how to light, but I'm being kind of lazy with my lighting. So y'all bear with me. I'm just wanting to get this done and get the message out there. Okay, chapter three, The Spiraling Shot of a Lifetime. It had started as so many things did with a phone call. Samaria, a light sleeper, was jolted awake by Fifi's hushed yet undeniably flirtatious conversation in the living room. A familiar pang of jealousy twisted into something colder, something aching to fear. She told herself countless times she deserved better, that she shouldn't tolerate this. Yet the thought of leaving, of being alone, sent a wave of panic through her. She thought she needed Fifi, even if the connection was slowly destroying her. She confronted Fifi, the admission of the ex girlfriend, a dagger to her heart. In a fit of rage, born from a cocktail of betrayal and her own self loathing, she hurled the Blackberry phone against the wall. The destructive act, the destructive act felt strangely liberating at first, a release of pent up fury, but the immediate regret hit her like a physical blow. The phone, her lifeline, gone. And now Fifi's fury was a terrifying storm gathering strength, the frantic search for the phone, a desperate plea of innocence. The shimmering resentment bubbling inside her, it all became a suffocating weight. She wanted to apologize, to explain that the anger had stemmed not from mistrust, but from her own deep seated insecurities, her own fear of abandonment. But the words caught in her throat, replaced by a stubborn refusal to admit her own failing, her pride. A cruel mistress held her captive. This wasn't just about the phone, it was about a war she was losing, a war raged against herself. Fifi, gun in hand, pacing like a caged animal, became a reflection of Tamaria's own inner turmoil. The gun wasn't just a threat, it was a symbol of destructive power. It was a symbol of the destructive power of their relationship, a culmination of unspoken resentments and festering wounds. With each repetition of go get my phone, Tamaria felt herself drowning in her own self destructive choice. The silence, filled with the frantic thump of her heart, filled her with her own culpability. She had failed to communicate, failed to trust, failed to leave when she knows she should. Now she was trapped, facing a consequence she knew she'd brought upon herself. Knowing that whatever happened next, the regret could burn for a lifetime if left let me start over a little bit. Now she was trapped, facing a consequence she knew she brought upon herself. Knowing that whatever happened next, the regret could burn for a lifetime if left untreated. The air hung thick and still, a single gunshot cracking its silence. Tamaria's eyes locked on Fifi, didn't blink. Fifi remained rigid, a statue clutching the smoking pistol. Time fractured. A hummingbird. A hummingbird might have beaten its wings in slow motion. Tamaria felt the cold steep into her bones, a creeping dread that solidified into a question. Did she just shoot me? Her hands, numb, began a frantic search. Nothing. No searing pain. No crimson blood. But Fifi still stood there, a frozen monument of malice. The weapon still trained on her. A mirror propped on the dresser next to the bed reflected her own image. A tiny dark hole blossomed in her chest, blossoming like a morbid flower. A ragged breath escaped her lips. She whispered, the words tasting like ash. This bitch really bleeped me. So hopefully my video doesn't get or flagged for using some of the words that are in my book. I know some of these platforms can be a little bit, when it comes to telling a story. So I feel like I'm going to skip around a little bit. Okay. The icy bite of the rough hewn wood stole the last vestiges of warmth from Tamaria's bone. Let me start over. The icy bite of the rough hewn wood stole the last vestige of warmth from Tamaria's bones. Exhaustion, a familiar clawing beast, ripped through her, leaving behind a desolate emptiness. The bitter tang of unshed tears burned the back of her throat as they accumulated weight. Okay, hold on. The bitter tang of unshed tears burned the back of her throat as the accumulated weight of her life A tapestry woven with betrayals, regret, and a crushing loneliness threatened to crush her entirely. God, she rasped, the words a choked whisper lost in the chilling silence. If this is the end, forgive me. Forgive the sins I've carried like lead weights, the transgressions that claw at my soul. The scent of the damp earth and the decaying leaves filled her nostrils, a stark contrast to the ethereal sweetness she vaguely imagined a heaven. She vaguely imagined a heaven she'd always believed in, a concept as alien and unreachable as a distant star. Now, in her 23rd cycle of life, a young prisoner of her own turbulent heart, death had no terror. Heaven, however, that whispered a promise of tranquil oblivion, of finally laying down the unbearable burdens, filled her with a desperate aching. Am I shaking the table? Let me get up off the table for the video be like. Okay, filled her with a desperate aching. It was a mercy she knew she deserved, a sanctuary she craved, with the ferocity a drowning woman grasping for air. Fifi's eyes snapped open, the haze of unconsciousness clearing like a sudden burst of light. The weapon, a piece of cold steel heavy in her hand, jerked upwards. Outside, she saw Tamaria at the door of their neighbor's apartment. Let's go to the hospital. Tamaria knew the hospital was close, a 10-minute walk, maybe less. But the air hung thick and heavy, each breath a precious gamble. Each tick of the unseen clock hammered the reality of her morality. I'm going to skip some and let you guys read from there. Yeah, I'm going to skip some of this. And then that way I don't have to be on here crying. And that way I don't have to worry about me talking about my thoughts about, I can't even say it. I don't want to say it because of, I mean, we should have freedom of speech, but apparently not on social media. But if this was a in-person read along, I guess it would hit a little bit different. So I'm going to skip some, right, you guys? So we're going to jump to this part. The detective. Insistent questions felt like accusations, each one a violation. Who shot you? He pressed. She stared blankly, the lie forming on her lips, even as the truth clawed at her throat. To protect Fifi, to shield her from the inevitable fallout, Tamaria had to betray her own justice, to let another take the blame. The girl who brought me here, she whispered, the words tasting like a betrayal. Now, the girl who brought me here, I didn't say her name because initially we both brought each other there in a sense by our choices and our decisions. So the girl who brought me here, that was almost me taking accountability for my place, my role in where I was at in that moment. In the waiting room, yes, the lie solidified, a cold, hard knot in her stomach. Mm. This wasn't just about Fifi's escape. It was about shielding her from the unbearable weight of her own culpability. Had she in some twisted way wanted this, the thoughts, horrid as it was, slithered into her consciousness. The icy room, offered little solace. The week stretched to an eternity of forced conveyances. The phone's relentless ringing was a clamor of forced cheer and well meaning concern. Each call a fresh reminder of the life she'd nearly lost and the deception that had kept her alive. The visits were worse, a parade of sympathetic faces, their pity a suffocating blanket. She sat with a silent rage, not at Fifi, but at herself, at the choices that she had brought her here, at the choices that had brought her here. Her anger was a poisoned well, feeding on her deep seated feelings of worthlessness. The yearning for love and validation that her parents had never provided, nor could she find in anyone else. This wasn't luck, it was a cruel joke, a forced extension of a life she no longer wanted. God, she raged silently, was forcing her to endure this, to face the consequences of her actions and inactions, to bear witness to her own failures. Then came him, the visit from her son's father, the man who had almost blanked her before, not with a blank, but with his bare hands, sent a wave of icy terror through her. His presence, a threat of physical violence, and a brutal reminder of her past mistakes, of her repeated failures and judgment, her inability to escape the cycle of abuse and self destruction. He didn't need a weapon. His presence was the weapon, his very existence, a confirmation of her deepest fears, a confirmation of her inherent unworthiness. Oh Lord, she thought. A silent scream trapped in her thought. He hadn't come to finish her off, he'd come to watch her suffer. A silent observer to her continued self imprisonment, a living embodiment of her failure to escape her own self made hell. Ooh. Mm. Okay, let me see, guys. I'm gonna read some. I'm skipping, of course. As you guys know, I'm be skipping and I'm gonna be reading some. I'm gonna read this paragraph and then I'm gonna skip to a few other paragraphs. Um, so let's see. Forgiveness, she knew, was the only path, a divine mandate whispered in her heart, but the words felt hollow, a distant echo in the cavern of her anger and betrayal. This wasn't some scriptural exercise, this was Fifi, her Fifi, and the chasm between them felt vast and unbridgeable. Her idealed vision of their love, a modern day lesbian Romeo and Juliet, clashed violently with the brutal reality. Then, then the 50 Cent comparison. Once a source of strength, now felt like a pathetic attempt to romanticize her pain. So around that time, 50 Cent was popping many men, wish death upon me, blood in my eyes, dog, and I can't see. Niggas trying to my life away. But yeah, so I was like, it wasn't as many times as him, but I tried to connect or find strength in his testimony by, what I was going through. And it was just like, no, it's not the same. It's the same, but it ain't the same. Okay, so let's see. Mm. Okay, so we're gonna start here. Let me see how much longer this chapter is. Oh yeah, we got this is kind of a long chapter too. Yeah, this is kind of a long chapter. We're not even gonna start there. We're gonna make y'all gonna have to go and read and see what happened in between right here. Y'all gonna have to read that. Mm. Yeah, we're gonna start right here. I think that'll be a good place. I should have had already picked these out, but I'm just kind of freestyling it really for real, for real. Okay. This wasn't the life Tamaria desired, not at all. More like a nightmare. The weight of everyone's need pressed down on her. She was the mother, maid, chauffeur, and the cook, a tireless servant to this dysfunctional family. Her energy was depleted, her spirit frayed in need of renewal. The constant giving left her hollow, a gaping void where joy and self respect should have resided. She yearned for escape, a desperate, suffocating need that clawed at her insides. But how could she leave? The thought itself felt like a betrayal. Then the demonic thoughts, surfacing only during intimacy with Fifi, were worse. They were a poison, twisting her desires into revulsion, turning Fifi, her lover, into a monstrous figure in her mind. Was Fifi truly the devil, or was Tamaria projecting her own desperate need for an escape route, blaming Fifi for the suffocating reality of their relationship? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered, a constant agonizing torment. The matching loyalty tattoos, those crowned necks, mocked her. The crowns felt like shackles binding her into a life she no longer wanted, a love that was slowly unaliving her. The irony wasn't lost on her outward display of loyalty. The irony wasn't lost on her outward display of loyalty was a cruel farce. Her inner rebellion was a simmering volcano threatening to erupt, fueled by resentment and a terrifying sense of self loathing. She was betraying Fifi, yes, but she was also betraying herself, a far more devastating act. She was facing a choice: stay and suffocate, or leave and break Fifi's heart and perhaps her own spirit in the process. And the worst part, she knew deep down that she would choose poorly and that she was already making the wrong decision and that the regret would consume her for years to come. The looming failure of her current life was a heavy blanket weighing down every choice, every breath. So yeah, we left out a lot in chapter 3. I'm not even gonna lie, guys. I skipped a lot because I wasn't really comfortable with saying some of the words that I put in here. So we did leave out a lot for chapter 3, but it was definitely the shot that spiraled um, me down a long road. Um, Bullet wound right here. So you can barely see it. You can see it, but you can't really see it. You can see it more on my back where it exited, where it went in and went out. You can see it more on my back because it's a little bit darker because I'm not really able to like rub lotion on my back as much as I am on my chest as far as like how it keloid or how it healed. And then I have a little scar on the side of my ribs from where they had to insert a tube and drain the blood from getting into my lungs so I wouldn't have any type of, infection or anything like that. But from that incident, it got really, really dark for me internally. My internal term oils, if they were like dawning, we were pitch black at this point in time. Like if it was giving the sun was setting and it was getting ready to get dark, we completely made it into the dark after that. I really felt like I felt like God didn't love me. I felt like I was being punished. I felt like betrayed, of course, because how does the person that I love and that I'm trying to build a life with find it, find the find the energy and the strength and the spirit to try to take me out over a phone? It's like, was it really her or was it the mental illness and the spiritual warfare? The spiritual where this one's a little bit rough for me. Bear with me, guys. Was it the spiritual warfare that she was going through? To this day, like I still don't know what happened to that girl's phone. It's like it just disappeared. Like we went back after the incident happened, couldn't find the phone that night. That phone just really disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. Um, it was really like a movie. That incident that night, it was like a movie, something you see on Lifetime. Um, as much as I thought she would, I didn't think she was going to that night. It was like it happened so freaking fast, you guys. While I was in the hospital, I was very much thinking that it was over for me. I was thinking that it was done, that I was going to go to the other side. And to be honest, I was happy because I was like, yay, no more, no more life, right? So when I got the news that, oh, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna live, like that crushed me just as much as the act of what had happened. Because now I have to face all of this pain and I have to not allow all of this pain to turn me into something that I always work so hard not to be, right? Um, in that moment, like, I was just really thinking about getting help, right? And it's funny because I didn't even like, of course, I went to my neighbor's house, knocked on their door. This is in the middle of the night. But it wasn't until I was separated from Fifi. I don't know if it was because energetically we were separated, but like standing at the door is when I was by myself and when I was like, okay, God, what's up? Is this it? I'm sorry for all of the things that I've done. But yeah, I'm ready to come. Just as long as you're gonna forgive me of these sins, I'm ready, God. Let's go. But God was like, nah, you're not done yet. Let's see. I feel like one of the things like that I feel like I could reflect on in that moment in that era of my life is that not even specifically in that moment, but just recently letting go of like time constraints and wanting things to happen at a certain time at a certain pace without actually being ready for them. Like I wanted some really big things in life and it was like I didn't even really have the experience to be able to accept and receive them, but I was like placing these time constraints like I got to have things done by this age or this month or this year, and I feel like that caused me to rush through life a lot, and it wasn't until I actually got closer to my 40th cycles in life to where I could actually just slow down and relax and allow God to be God. But I was just always rushing, wanting to prove to myself, prove to others that, I was that girl. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew I was that girl, but it was like I didn't have the external proof, right? It's like no one could see the dreams that I had within inside me. And I knew they were big dreams and I knew they were big goals and I knew it was big things. And I felt like I had to rush in order to get them. I didn't really understand the process of releasing and allowing God to work on my behalf, right? To just sitting and knowing that everything that I do desire is going to come to me effortlessly, right? I am still trying to outwork God in the physical and the external, right? Outside of myself, I'm trying to outwork God, right? I'm trying to collaborate in the external and the physical with people who don't have the same amount of vision as I do or work ethics, but I'm rushing to the top, right? Because I don't, of course, want the life that I was in because I knew that there could be something better, right? I knew I could have something better because of God's promise, right? And in the environment and the culture that I grew up in, I said, this doesn't look like God's promise to me, so I need to be doing the work in order to to get up on out of here. You hear me? I need to do the work to get up out of here. And so that's what I was doing. And I was running fast into a lot of brick walls because I wasn't doing the internal work and visualizing and meditating and seeing it for what it was and what it could be and preparing myself and taking the necessary steps to get there, just running around trying anything with anybody, hoping to succeed when success is a part of my birthright for being a child of God. And I didn't have to work as hard as I did, but I didn't know that because I didn't know how to regulate my mind or my emotions in a positive aspect so that they can work for my greater good. And instead, they worked against me, right? Because my emotions and my thoughts were all over the place. So, therefore, my life and the things that I was experiencing was also all over the place. But the enemy will definitely come with thoughts, right? Amplified thoughts and emotions, such as, not wanting to be here anymore. And that was one that I felt heavily after this experience. It was heavy in my spirit. I was like, ugh, I don't. Like I'm over it, bro. It was like I had a mindset of abundance, but my emotions got the best of me because I felt like I was surrounded mostly by lack. So my mindset and my emotions weren't balanced, and that was throwing off my ability to tap into my higher self, tap into God, build that connection, see it on the inside first, hold that vision on the inside first before, actually seeing it flourish and come together in the physical world. So I was rushing to the top because I knew the top was attainable and I was going to be willing to do anything to get there. But God, had to show me some things as far as how I was moving and how I was working backwards. All right. Um, One thing I noticed in my journey of self discovery and also healing through all of the things that I've been through is that you get a repeat of the lesson, right? So until you learn the lesson, until you can master the lesson, you're going to get the same situations and the same type of people to come into your life to test you, right? And you could be sitting here affirming the greatest things over your life, and then God's going to test you, the universe is going to test you to see if you have mastered the things that you need to avoid or mastered the level of discipline that you need in order to, you know, attain your purpose and your desired reality, right? You're going to get these tests. These tests are to test you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, right? When these tests come in, you're going to need to stay balanced on all three levels because if you fail in any other areas, it's like you're going to have to take the test again, right? So I feel like with this violence that I experienced from her and the violence that I experienced for or from the relationship prior to her, I'm like, this is a test, right? These violent relationships are not a part of my goals, my plans, right? For my best life, my greatest life. This is not it, right? So if you find yourself in a familiar situation, it's most likely you're not putting boundaries up for yourself. You're not self reflecting, and you're just allowing other people to dictate and narrate your life, your journey, right? You're not setting up any boundaries as to, okay, this is my path, and you need to set a fence on the side of you as you're walking along that path and not allow things that don't align with you and where you're going to interfere. So the delusion was definitely real in this chapter. If you guys read it, you will see because you're going to be like, what in the world, Tamaria? Why would you do what you did after what happened? But again, the delusion was real. I suffered from PTSD. I never went to therapy about this situation. I just self healed and gave it to God. That was the only therapy that I've had from this. So the PTSD, it lingered long after this situation ended, right? So it lingered because I never took the time to heal from it. I never just sat down with what I went through, looked at it, reflected. Like, I just was like, okay, I'm going to forgive her. And I'm just like, thinking like instantly that forgiveness is going to make everything go away. And it didn't, right? It doesn't work like that. Forgiveness is almost like grief, right? You have to do it in cycles, right? So maybe 1 month you're able to, sit in that forgiveness and really feel okay. But then in the next month, you may get a wave of emotions and thoughts that make you question yourself and why you're forgiving and why this happened to you. And so forgiveness definitely, it does take some time, especially when you go through something traumatic, right? You just can't go through that traumatic situation and then the next day like, okay, I forgive you. Let's move on. Like, no. You have to be intentional about wanting to forgive and to forgive for the right reasons. Mm. So because I didn't actually take the time to kind of like get through that situation, it was like I was suppressing that pain. I was suppressing the turmoil. I was suppressing my spiritual self and my connection with God. I was suppressing it and I was allowing um that to just kind of really change who I was as a person, right? Like I thought like I was some sort of like gangster after that, right? And it's like the more you try to suppress the things that you don't want to become, is like the more you become them. If you don't want to be depressed, or if you don't want to be dark, if you don't want to be malicious or manipulative, right? But you're trying to suppress the fact that that is what you are and you're not facing it head on, you become more of that, right? So I became more depressed, more suicidal. Like I became more of everything that I didn't want to be because I wasn't really looking at the issues and facing them head on, right? And that's like almost it's a spiritual attack, it's like a demonic attack, it's a emotional and mental attack, right? And so I was just really trapped in this cycle of wrong thinking. And righteousness is really nothing more than right thinking, right? Having a mindset that is you thinking in a direction or a path or with a flow that is going to be for your best interest. I was just thinking recklessly, right? I wasn't really caring whether something good or bad was going to happen. I was just out to fight. And it was like I was fighting myself because who else could I fight? And the worst thing about it is I was pouring from an empty cup, right? It's like you're born into the world, your cup is full, and then you start letting, passing it around, letting everybody get a little sip, get a little taste. And before I knew it, like I was feeling dry, like my cup is empty. I don't have anything to give, but yet how am I still giving, right? So in these situations, it does take a lot of time for you to pour back into yourself, to pour back into your self-love routines and healthy habits and having, stability in your life financially, stability in your life when it comes to a support system. Like they say you can't heal in the places where you were hurt. And I feel like that's very true. And essentially, it's like I didn't learn that in that particular dynamic, but it's like something I know 100% for sure now, right? You can't heal in the places that hurt you. So that, and then as well, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And a lot of times, as a giver, you don't have too many people wanting to pour into your cup, right? And as a giver, you're usually the one who is allowing people to put a straw and sip from you in order to have the energy, the inspiration, the motivation, the light, the protection, the covenant from God because of your presence, your grace, right? And so if you don't have anybody that's pouring back into you and you're just in this environment that's draining, it takes a toll on your spirit. And it's like, of course, a lot of people don't like to be alone. But at the same time, if you're not alone, you don't get the opportunity to get close to yourself, recognize your true energy, your true potential, and just sit in the silence and just really know and hear from God. If you're always in an energy or energies with other people that's clouding your judgment, clouding your emotions, tampering with your judgment, tampering with your emotions, you're not in the position to think for yourself, feel for yourself, because you're in this group and everybody's pulling from everybody. And if there's no true source of God within the pool, then it just becomes a complete mess, y'all. And people they are okay with trying to take all of you, the last of you, if you allow them. All right. That is what I had for chapter 4. Or no, that's chapter 3, my bad. So that is what I have for chapter 3, you guys. So be sure to leave a comment. If you are looking for the replay, you can find it on YouTube. I'm going to create a playlist for the read along. That way it will be easy for you guys to find it. If not, just go to the live section on the YouTube tabs and you will see all of my live videos there, and they will be titled. Again, be sure to like this video, share this video on any of your social media platforms so that the message can, be spread and the testimony can be spread, and so that we can become better as a collective, especially a collective that wants to grow and wants to live in abundance and prosperity and in love and peace and harmony. Yeah, definitely share the video. What else, you guys? Oh, if you want to leave a gift or a donation, they are truly appreciated. You can Venmo me on our private place, and yeah, submit your questions and I will answer them in a live if you just go ahead and submit them on Instagram and also Snapchat. But yeah, it's definitely a journey. I've definitely tried to reach to the top relatively quick. And I see why, God allowed me to kind of slow down, because getting what you want quickly, I feel like getting what you want quickly and not necessarily connected to God can lead you in a lot of the places and positions that we see on social media with like some of the celebrities and things of that nature. Yeah, I could have had a completely different path had I got the things that I wanted at an early age. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be, sitting here encouraging you to do the right thing. I'd be sitting here encouraging you to do something very crazy, ratchet. That probably would have been, me had I not actually taken the moment to get to this level of awareness and healing that I'm in right now. But that's pretty much it, you guys. I'm wishing you nothing but peace, prosperity, and blessings, not only in today, but also tomorrow and all your future endeavors. I will see you guys in chapter 4. Take care. Bye.